Welcome to CBS This Morning. French police targeted terror suspects in an early morning raid that brought gunfire to a Paris suburb. The police assault left 2 people dead and others in custody. The standoff at an apartment building lasted for hours.
The raid targeted the alleged mastermind of the Paris terror attacks that killed 129 people. CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Scott Pelley is at the scene in Saint-Denis, just north of Paris. Scott, good morning.
Good morning. The French prosecutors are telling us this morning that it was telephone surveillance and eyewitnesses that led the police to the apartment here in Saint-Denis early this morning. As you said, 2 suspects have been killed, about a half dozen have been arrested, and we also understand that several police officers were also injured in the operation. Elizabeth Palmer has been covering the investigation for us all along. Elizabeth, what do we know?
Well, the prosecutor has told us that this is unprecedented. A gun battle like this in the city, police being fired on for hours.
As soon as the police moved in, the shooting started. With the neighborhood sealed off, SWAT teams zeroed in on an apartment. Shortly afterwards, said the prosecutor's office, a woman suicide bomber wearing an explosive vest blew herself. Resident Alexia Desbos was woken by the noise.
And I heard some explosions, 4 or 5 explosions. And then I opened the door and I heard gunshots, many gunshots.
The battle went on for an hour and a half. The mastermind of the Paris attacks himself may have been in the apartment. A police official said Abdelhamid Abaoud, who was initially thought to be in Syria, was now believed to have been hiding out in the building with 5 heavily armed people. The owner of the apartment was on the street nearby, and he told French reporters he'd been asked by a friend as a favor to lend his place for a few days to people he didn't know. He's since been arrested. Other residents of the building were evacuated during lulls in the shooting, and for some it was a harrowing wait. My son was screaming, says this man. We threw ourselves under the bed for more than an hour until the police escorted us out. They told us the building was going to explode. 2 men, partly naked, were led out of the building by the police, as well as an injured officer, one of several hurt during this major operation.
So, Elizabeth, what do we know about this man that the French describe as the mastermind of what happened on Friday, Abdelhamid Abaoud?
He's 28 years old. He's Belgian. He lived in that suburb, which is now well known to have been home to many radicalized fighters who went to Syria, Molenbeek.
In Brussels.
In Brussels. He was radicalized, is known to have fought in Syria, very active on social media. And although he hasn't been physically present at attacks, he's suspected of planning some, including, if you'll remember, that attack on the high-speed train in August, the one that was foiled by the 2 Americans aboard who wrestled the gunman to the ground. Now, there is no guarantee that they have got him. Until late last night, the police were saying they thought he was in Syria. That's where he's last popped up from. I expect if they have got him, we'll hear that very soon.
Elizabeth Palmer covering the story for us, Liz. Thank you very much. Well, as Liz just said, the big question of the hour is, have they caught the mastermind of the terrorist attacks on Friday? We'll know a little bit later today. Gail, back to you.
Sounds totally terrifying. Thank you, Scott. And Elizabeth Palmer in Saint-Denis.